Your methods are too traditional for our new direction, she explained during my termination. We need digital-first leadership. My name is Garrett Walsh. For 15 years, I ran the Midwest sales division of Oaklight Publishing in Indianapolis. I built that team from nothing, turning a struggling territory into the company's top revenue generator. No fancy software, no algorithms, just relationships, handshakes, and knowing which publishers needed what. By last year, my division was responsible for 60% of total company revenue. Not that anyone at the executive level noticed until those quarterly reports landed on their desks. When Veronica Bennett became CEO 6 months ago, she arrived with consultants in designer suits and endless PowerPoint decks. Every meeting was about digital transformation and disrupting the publishing model. She'd never worked in publishing a day in her life, came from a San Francisco tech firm, but the board adored her vision. I kept my head down, kept delivering results, though I could feel her eyes on me during leadership meetings. I was the oldest director there, the only one who still kept a paper calendar and met clients face-to-face instead of over Zoom. The summons came on a Monday morning. Her assistant Jason looked uneasy when he appeared at my door. "She'd like to see you at 2 in the executive boardroom." I thanked him and went back to my call with Franklin Press, our biggest client. We were finalizing a 5-year extension worth $12 million, secured through 10 years of quarterly dinners with Thomas Franklin himself. The boardroom had been redesigned since Veronica arrived. Glass walls, minimalist furniture, a massive digital display where the oak conference table once stood. 3 people waited: Veronica, Jason, and someone from HR I didn't know. I knew before she spoke. "Garrett, thank you for everything you've done for Oaklight," she began, hands folded. "But we've decided to move in a different direction with leadership." I listened quietly as she explained how my methods were outdated, how they needed someone aligned with a digital-first approach. Someone younger, though she didn't say it. I thanked her, shook her hand, and walked out without arguing. 15 years ended in 15 minutes. What Veronica didn't understand was that in publishing, especially with the old houses that made up 80% of our business, trust wasn't built through metrics or marketing platforms. I cleared my desk while the team was at lunch. No farewells, no scene, just quiet dignity. But once in my car, I sat staring at my phone. 3 missed calls from Thomas Franklin. He'd heard already. I'd joined Oaklight back when it was still Midwestern Literary Partners. Small operation, 20 employees, a few regional clients. I'd left a 6-figure job at Heritage Books after a New York merger gutted the culture. Robert Oaklight hired me personally. "We don't need number crunchers," he'd said. "We need people who still care about what's between the covers." For the first 5 years, I rebuilt the division from the ground up, drove 70,000 miles visiting every independent publisher between Ohio and Nebraska. I knew their spouses' names, their kids, their anniversaries, went to weddings, funerals, retirements, not because it was strategy, but because that's who we were. By the time Robert retired and his son William took over, we'd grown 400%. William understood the business, even if he cared more about spreadsheets than his father had. He left me alone to run things my way. 3 years ago, when the board began whispering about modernizing operations, William pushed back. But when cancer took him last year at 58, there was no one left to defend the old ways. The cracks appeared even before Veronica's arrival. Board meetings filled with words like antiquated and inefficient, questions about why our team hadn't leveraged social media or implemented CRM optimization. Jacob, my assistant director, the man I'd been grooming to succeed me, started getting invitations to strategy sessions I was excluded from. He'd come back uneasy. "They're talking about restructuring," he told me 6 months ago, "creating a digital sales team separate from the traditional side." I should have seen it coming. Should have noticed when they hired 3 digital engagement specialists and placed them under me without discussion, or when they quietly reassigned my long-term clients to that new team. Thomas Franklin called me personally the day they took his account. "Some kid rang me today," he said. "Told me he's my new account manager. Said they're streamlining customer interface or something. What's going on over there, Garrett?" "Just some reorganization," I told him. "Nothing to worry about." But I was worried. I just didn't yet know how to fight a battle when I no longer understood the weapons being used against me. The day after my termination, I sat in my home office staring at my phone. 17 missed calls, 32 texts, 6 emails marked urgent, all from clients and industry contacts who'd heard the news. I hadn't told anyone yet, not even my wife, Catherine, who was visiting our daughter in Columbus. I needed to process it alone first. The call that finally made me pick up came from Thomas Franklin. "What the hell happened?" he demanded, skipping any greeting. "They're going in a new direction," I said, repeating the corporate line. Thomas spat. "You are that company to most of us. Do they even understand that?" I didn't answer. "I met with that new guy yesterday, drew something, spent 40 minutes talking about analytics and engagement metrics. Not once did he ask about our new historical fiction imprint, the one I told you was make or break for us this year." I closed my eyes, suddenly tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "They'll figure it out, Thomas." "No, they won't," he said flatly. "Because people like that never learn what matters. They just impose their systems and expect everyone else to adapt." After we hung up, I opened the email HR had sent with my severance details. 6 months' pay, health insurance for 90 days, a non-disparagement clause, and a 1-year non-compete that supposedly barred me from working with any Oaklite clients. I almost laughed. They really believed they could sever decades of relationships with a paragraph of legal text. My phone buzzed again. Eleanor Jenkins from Riverstone Press this time, another major client, another friendship built over years of trust. "I heard what happened," she said when I answered. "It's their loss. When you're ready to talk about what's next, call me." By evening, I'd heard from 12 major clients, nearly 40% of Oaklite's annual revenue, each saying the same thing. Their loyalty was to me, not to the company that had replaced me. I sat in the backyard that night, nursing a bourbon, turning over an idea that had started as a whisper that morning and grew louder with each conversation. They discarded me because my methods didn't fit their shiny new digital model. Because I built relationships instead of analyzing dashboards. But what if those outdated methods were exactly what the clients valued most? What if the very thing Veronica Bennett saw as weakness was my greatest strength? I picked up my phone and called my attorney, Benjamin Weiss. "Ben, I need you to look at something for me." "A non-compete clause. They let you go?" he asked, surprised. "They did. And I think it might be the best thing that's ever happened to me." I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to keep doing what I'd always done, helping publishers connect with the right partners. If Oaklite no longer valued that, others surely would. That night, for the first time since the termination, I slept soundly. 2 weeks later, I met Benjamin at his downtown office. He'd reviewed the agreement and had news I didn't expect. "It's essentially unenforceable," he said, sliding the paper across his desk. "Too broad in scope, too long in duration, and it can't legally stop you from using your own skills and industry knowledge." "So I could start my own consulting firm?" I asked. "You could," he said, "but they'll still threaten to sue. Even if they lose, they can drag it out, make it costly." I thought about it. Oaklite had deep pockets and a board eager to protect its image. "What if I don't approach any clients directly?" I asked. "What if I just make myself available?" Benjamin smiled. "That's an entirely different story." The next day, I filed paperwork to establish Walsh Publishing Consultants. No website, no marketing push, no public announcement, just a legal entity that could quietly accept payments and provide services. 3 days later, Thomas Franklin called. "I hear you've set up shop," he said without preamble. "News travels fast," I replied. "In this industry, like wildfire. Listen, I need help with our winter catalog strategy. Oaklite's new team is pushing us toward academic markets, but my gut says we should double down on our historical line. I need someone who understands both readers and numbers. I'm still figuring out my next steps, Thomas." "15,000 for 2 months of strategic guidance," he countered. "No direct competition with Oaklite services, just helping us make the right calls." It was generous, carefully structured to avoid breaching my non-compete. Still, I hesitated. "I need to think about it." "Don't think too long," Thomas said. We're making decisions next week. After hanging up, my phone rang again. Jacob, my former assistant director. Can we meet? He asked, voice low. Not at the office. Somewhere quiet. We agreed on a small cafe near Eagle Creek Park, well away from downtown and the publishing crowd. Jacob looked nervous when he arrived, glancing around before sitting down. It's bad, he said. They promoted me to your position, but I'm just a figurehead. All the real decisions are coming from the digital team. That's not surprising, I said. No, you don't understand, he continued. They're tearing down everything you built. They've reassigned all your major accounts to the new team. They're forcing everyone onto this new CRM platform that half the staff can't even use. 3 people have quit already. I took a slow sip of coffee, keeping my face neutral. And the clients? Jacob scanned the cafe again before leaning closer. They're furious. Riverstone is threatening to walk. Thomas Franklin hasn't returned calls in a week. The quarterly projections are catastrophic, and Veronica is blaming the transition, calling it expected turbulence. He hesitated. But there's more. They're watching you. Legal had a meeting about your non-compete yesterday. They're worried you might poach clients. Now I understood Jacob's paranoia. He was risking his new position just to warn me. Thanks for telling me this, Jacob. He nodded, then slid an envelope across the table. Client contact list, updated with personal emails and cell numbers. He stood to leave. You didn't get this from me, and we never met today. After he left, I sat there for a long time, turning the envelope over in my hands. Using that information would be exactly what Oaklight feared and expected. It would justify legal action against me, maybe even against Jacob. They'd set a trap, anticipating my next move, which meant I needed to make a different one entirely. I left the envelope on the table, untouched, when I walked out. A month passed. I hadn't contacted any Oaklight clients, despite the daily calls from publishers asking for help. I deflected politely, citing professional boundaries. The non-compete might be flawed, but I wasn't ready to test it yet. Instead, I focused on the wider industry, small independents, university presses, literary agents looking for guidance, work that wouldn't trigger legal trouble but kept me close to the field I loved. Then came an invitation I hadn't expected. Harold Blackwood, chairman of Oaklight's board, wanted to meet privately, not at the office, at his club downtown. I accepted, curiosity more than anything else driving the decision. The Indianapolis Gentlemen's Association was all dark wood, quiet halls, and whispered conversations. Harold, 70 and silver-haired, waited in a private room with 2 tumblers of scotch already poured. "Thank you for coming, Garrett," he said, motioning to the seat across from him. "I imagine you're wondering why I asked to meet." "The thought crossed my mind," I said. He pushed one of the glasses toward me. "Things at Oaklight aren't going as planned." I took a small sip, saying nothing. "Revenue is down 38% this quarter," Harold continued. "Client retention is the lowest in company history. The digital initiative that was supposed to revolutionize us has instead alienated our core base." "That's unfortunate," I replied evenly. Harold studied me. "You don't seem surprised." "Publishing has always been a relationship business," I said. "So I'm learning," he admitted, leaning forward. "The board is deeply concerned about Veronica's leadership. Her strategies might have worked in tech, but publishing doesn't operate on algorithms." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because we'd like you to come back, as Chief Revenue Officer, above Veronica in the chain of command." I stared at him, processing the offer. "What about my replacement?" "Jacob's a good man, but he doesn't have your relationships or reputation. And Veronica," Harold's tone hardened, "she would have no choice but to accept the arrangement." The pieces fell into place. "This isn't just about quarterly numbers, is it? This has been building for a while." Harold sighed, the polished mask slipping. Veronica was William's hire, his last major decision before his illness worsened. The board had doubts, but we deferred to him out of respect. After his death, we gave her room to prove herself. She hasn't. And your termination, well, that wasn't approved by the board. We were informed after the fact, same as several other major changes. I sat back, seeing the picture clearly now. Veronica hadn't fired me for being traditional. She'd been systematically clearing out William's people, replacing them with her own loyalists. My dismissal had never been about modernization. It was about control. "The offer is generous," Harold continued. "Double your salary, full control over client relationships and sales, the board's complete backing to rebuild your team." It was everything I should have wanted: vindication, power, stability. "I'll need time to consider," I said. "Of course," Harold replied, "but don't take too long. The situation is deteriorating quickly." On the drive home, I turned the conversation over in my mind. The board hadn't just realized their mistake. They'd known from the start. They'd simply lacked the will to challenge it until profits fell. And there was something else Harold hadn't said outright, but I understood it perfectly. They wanted me to return as their executioner, to dismantle everything Veronica had built and eventually remove her. They didn't want me for my integrity or relationships. They wanted me for my influence, for the client loyalty they could no longer command. The thought didn't make me angry. It made me absolutely certain about what needed to come next. I declined Harold's offer the next morning with a short, polite email. His reply came within minutes, increasing the compensation. I didn't answer. Instead, I made 3 calls. The first was to Thomas Franklin. "I'm ready to discuss that consulting arrangement," I told him, "but I'd like to suggest something different." "I'm listening," he said. "I won't consult exclusively for Franklin Press. Instead, I'm forming a collective, a consortium of independent publishers who share resources, distribution, and market data. No contracts, no corporate politics, just publishers helping publishers, with me connecting the dots." There was a pause. "How many others have you approached?" "None yet." "You're the first call because I'm your biggest client?" "Because I trust your judgment," I corrected. "If you think it's viable, I'll move forward. If not, I'll stay traditional." Thomas didn't hesitate. "I'm in, and I know at least 5 others who would be too." My second call was to Eleanor Jenkins at Riverstone Press. As expected, she embraced the consortium idea immediately and even proposed refinements: a shared digital platform that could give smaller publishers the reach of a large house without sacrificing independence. The third call was to Benjamin, my attorney, to make sure the plan wouldn't violate my non-compete agreement. "You're not working for their clients," Benjamin confirmed after hearing my outline. "You're creating an entirely new entity that their clients can choose to join." Subtle distinction, but legally powerful. Within 2 weeks, the Walsh Publishing Consortium had 7 founding members, all former Oaklight clients who had either already left or planned to once their contracts expired. Each contributed to a shared operational fund that covered my modest salary and basic infrastructure. The goal wasn't to build a competing company. It was to create something Oaklight couldn't easily imitate, a cooperative model where publishers kept their independence but gained the strength of collective resources. No one crowned me CEO or printed a title on my door. I was simply the facilitator, the connector who understood what each member needed and who could provide it. We rented a small office in Broad Ripple, far from the sleek downtown towers where Oaklight and other corporate houses operated. I hired 2 employees, a recent graduate to manage communications and social media, and a seasoned operations manager who'd retired once before but wasn't ready to leave the industry behind. Word spread fast through the tight-knit publishing world. By the end of the first month, 3 more publishers had joined. By the end of the second, we'd already outgrown our space. I was careful never to approach Oaklight's clients directly. I didn't have to. They found us, drawn by success stories and frustrated by the digital-first model that ignored the human relationships at publishing's core. Jacob called one evening in late September, 2 months after we'd launched. "They know what you're doing," he said immediately. "Veronica's furious." Talking legal action. "We haven't violated anything," I said calmly. "That won't stop her from trying. There's a board meeting tomorrow, quarterly results. It's going to be ugly." "That's not my concern anymore, Jacob." "I know," he hesitated, "but I thought you should hear it from me." And I wanted to ask, any chance there's room for one more? I've reached my limit here. I smiled. Everything was unfolding exactly as I'd expected, not out of revenge, but because I understood this business better than Veronica ever could. Come by the office tomorrow, I told him. We'll talk. The October earnings call told the story numbers never could. Oaklight Publishing reported a 45% drop in revenue compared with the previous year. Their stock fell 17% in a single day. I didn't listen to the call. I was in a strategy session with 15 consortium members, mapping our joint presentation for the upcoming Chicago Industry Conference. But Thomas texted me the highlights, Veronica blaming market shifts and transitional challenges. No mention of the obvious, their biggest clients were gone. Later that afternoon, my phone lit up with an unfamiliar number. "Is this Garrett Walsh?" a woman's clipped voice asked. "Patricia Harrington, Oaklight Board of Directors. I'm calling to inform you the board has voted to waive your non-compete agreement effective immediately. We've also instructed legal to prepare a cease and desist regarding interference with our client relationships." I waited, letting silence stretch. "Do you have a response, Mr. Walsh?" "Just one question," I said finally. "Have you spoken with your clients directly?" "Not surveys or reports. Actually sat down with Thomas Franklin or Eleanor Jenkins and asked why they left?" "That's not relevant to—" "It's the only thing that's relevant," I cut in. "They didn't leave because I started something new. They left because Oaklight stopped valuing what mattered to them. The board meeting is still in session," she said after a pause. "Perhaps you'd care to join us and explain your perspective in person." "I appreciate the offer," I said evenly, "but I'm in the middle of my own meeting, with 15 publishers who've chosen a different path." She went silent long enough that I thought the call had dropped. "I see," she said finally, and hung up. The cease and desist never arrived. 3 days later, the business section of the Indianapolis Star ran the headline, "Oaklight CEO steps down amid financial turbulence." 6 months after founding the Walsh Publishing Consortium, we moved into permanent offices inside a renovated warehouse in Fountain Square. 23 member publishers now, with a waiting list forming. We'd expanded beyond Indiana to include small and mid-sized presses across the Midwest. The industry had noticed. Publishers Weekly featured us first, then the New York Times business section. "The relationship revolution in publishing," one headline called it. I hadn't meant to start a revolution, only to preserve what I knew worked. But sometimes the oldest ideas feel radical again when people remember why they mattered. Harold Blackwood called one Tuesday morning. Oaklight had a new CEO now, someone promoted from within, a veteran who'd been with the company for decades. "We'd like to discuss the possibility of Oaklight joining your consortium," he said, wasting no time. I smiled to myself. "That's not how it works, Harold. We don't take on corporations your size, perhaps a partnership arrangement then." "I'll bring it to our leadership council," I said, already knowing their answer. The publishers who joined us did so precisely to escape what Oaklight represented. After hanging up, I walked through our open-plan office. No private suite for me, just a desk among the others, part of the daily hum that kept us connected. Jacob looked up from his workstation. "Everything okay?" "Just fine," I said with a small nod. "Oaklight wants to join the consortium." He laughed. "Talk about coming full circle." Later that afternoon, I drove to Eagle Creek Park and sat by the water, the same spot I'd gone years ago when problems at Oaklight felt impossible to solve. But now, there were no problems. Just quiet satisfaction in knowing that what I'd built would last. Not because it was flashy or disruptive, but because it was founded on something that never really changes. People trusting people who've earned it. Sometimes, getting fired is the best thing that can happen to you. Not because it offers revenge, but because it forces you to build something real, something honest, something that finally belongs entirely to you.